ஏற்கனவே ரெக்கார்டிங் இருக்கு. Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to the 5th day workshop. Today we will have session on ANOVA. I feel happy to introduce today's resource person, Professor Arun Prakash. Professor Arun Prakash pursuing PhD in finance, specializing on capital market analysis. Possesses masters in business administration, having 9 years of experience in teaching and research, and 4 years in financial service industry. He conducted few MTPs on capital market awareness and fundamentals and technical analysis, and few investor awareness programs. Experienced in conducting statistical research using SPSS, Excel, and eViews. Sir, we are very much fortunate to have you for this session. Welcome you, sir. Over to Professor Arun Prakash.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Mekchandran. A very, very happy evening to all present here. I'm really thrilled and enthused to be part of this forum. First, before beginning the session, I just wanted to thank the management of KJC who offered this opportunity to talk more about and to discuss more about the upcoming research aspects and how the different tools are being used. And this particular workshop where we started, and this is the 5th day of the workshop. And my place or my role in this particular workshop where we are going to discuss more on ANOVA, analysis of variance. Hopefully, you people would have come across with all the basic tools, the introduction to SPSS, t-test, and how the basic tests like reliability and normality has been checked. So these are the basic tests which you have come up with. And from this session onwards, the level of difficulty of learning the research and the tools, it's going to be hiked to the level next. This is, again, not the factor to be scared. And again, I'm just trying to put as simple as possible all the tools what we are going to discuss here. I'm just planning to put it as simple as possible. And I'm really thrilled and enthused again, as I told you. So let's, without much of the wait, let's get on with the session. Yes, as I told you, so this particular session, we are planning to discuss on the analysis of variance. I was wondering how we could better this particular topic. What are the additional features we can add it to this topic? I was little wondering, and I was little challenged, felt like challenged that I need to do some justice for you people when you are entering or when you are learning this analysis of variance for the real-time research. And I just went for behind the history of this particular tool. How did this analysis of ANOVA, that is analysis of variance, comes into the existence and how it has been changed and where and all it has been applied. I just went for the study of a small research. And even before getting into that, I normally, when we talk about research, I just normally decide, I normally think about one of my famous jokes given by my research mentor. He used to always say that, it's not about applying the tools on the research, rather it is like understanding why this tool needs to be used on that particular situation. So that's more important. And how do you write the conclusion or the interpretation part of the tool? He normally says the story of the frog and the researcher. Normally, many of you would have heard about the story. I bet definitely would have heard about the story. But I really like that comic. The reason behind, there was a researcher who was doing the dissection of the frog. And he was noting out all the points when he's dissecting. And he finally came to the last limbs. He decided that, okay, the frog has got 4 limbs. And he cut the first limb and he wrote and he asked the frog, he just said, jump, and with a strange voice, and it heard, and the frog tried to jump with all its 4 legs. After the cut of the first limb, again he said jump, and he jumped with trying with 3 limbs, and it was able to maintain the jump. He cut the second limb also. And the two limbs, it was started, he said again, jump. And again, it just tried to jump, and it again tried it, but not as good as the first and the second attempt. But in the third attempt, it was trying to jump little. And he cut all the four limbs. Now he asked the frog to jump, and frog was not able to jump. Of course, it was. All the limbs are being cut. He came back to the report part. And when he started writing the report, he mentioned when all four limbs of the frog has been dissected out, the frog becomes dumb, deaf. And this is the interpretation which he gave us. And many of you would be wondering, there is nothing wrong in this interpretation, right? There is nothing wrong in interpretation, meaning the output, what he has seen at the end of dissecting all the limbs of the frog, the output, what he has witnessed is correct. Right. So when you cut all the limbs, of course, it doesn't obey the instruction, but the way he interpreted, that was so wrong. So here, the knowledge of using the tool and where and all I can apply this particular tool, that carries a major importance when you're applying the tool. It's not the basic. It's not only for the ANOVA. Any tool for that matter. In the next upcoming days, you are going to learn about correlation, regression, followed by factorial analysis. Whatever be the tool you're using, the basic understanding is where you need to apply this tool. So again, coming back to the history. So I told you, I just wanted to look at the history of this particular tool, where this tool is being applied at its maximum. And I came to know about these two personalities. Hope you people would have recognized these two. One, of course, Albert Einstein definitely would have recognized this personality, physicist, scientist. And the next personality, I doubt few would have recognized, and few wouldn't have recognized him. And he's none other than Ronald Aylmer Fisher, and he's the one who invented something called ANOVA. You would all have a doubt why this particular topic needs to start with these two personalities. Of course, one, he invented ANOVA. Okay, you can understand the reason. What is the other reason is the theory of relativity. When Albert Einstein comes into the picture, ANOVA and Albert Einstein, what is it correlating? If you just look at the years of the inventions, theory of relativity, it took 1919, but Albert Einstein was working on that particular project for the past 10 years. And he was unable to assess few things, like he was making small changes every time when he conducts the experiment. Every time when he conducts the experiment, he was making small changes and he was trying to measure the output. He was doing that continuously for many times. And every time there was a change in the output, but he was not able to assess, is that the change in the output because of the change in the factor number 1, or change in the factor number 2, or change in the factor number 3. He was finding it so difficult to understand which change in the factor created impact on the main output. He was struggling to identify the relation like that. And 1919, he identified and he came out with a theory of relativity. And exactly before, just 1 year before that, Fisher, he came out with his own invention of ANOVA. And as we all think, F-test, normally we call it as F-stat. That is what we calculate in the end of ANOVA. Most of you would have heard about it. It just came out of the name Fisher. So he invented this concept of ANOVA. But as you all think, he is not a statistician. He is a genetic engineer. He is a genetic engineer. And he was working on Mendelian genetics engineering. And you people will be wondering again, so genetics till ANOVA. So is there any correlation? Yes, definitely. I was also wondering there is no any relationship between that, but he proved it again. So what he used to do is, he was inventing a lot of seeds. The seeds which delivers the plants like peas. Peas is a main plant which they were working on. He was genetically coding a lot of seeds. So when he was coding seeds, he was changing a lot of the genetical aspect coded in the DNA. He was trying to change a lot of aspects on the DNA part. And he was not able to identify which change in the DNA has brought that particular output. He was not able to link that. So he was also struggling with the same thing. So he instead of addressing that genetic engineering concept, he started addressing, so how to address this particular phenomenon. And that's how this particular part, ANOVA, came into the picture. So this is how I did get to know about history of ANOVA. And many of us, we apply ANOVA, right? You think that ANOVA is a statistical tool which we apply for identifying the significance, but no. To me, it is completely different. For me, how I feel it is, on everyday basis, we are applying ANOVA. You people will be wondering where I've been working. I mean, where I've been applying ANOVA. Some of the situations where I identified, okay, here and all we are applying ANOVA without even knowing that we are applying ANOVA. So when you are cooking, right? When you're some famous dish when you're cooking. When you're cooking for the next time, normally what we'll do, we'll just make some certain change in the dish, certain change in the recipe of the dish, and we'll be expecting the output. And we'll be, of course, we'll test it on the family. Normally, we'll test it on the poor souls. And when we test it, normally people will get to know, okay, of course, today there is a change in the dish, believing, okay, you would have made some change in the dish before that. So again, that is an adaptation of ANOVA, I would say. That is nothing but an adaptation of ANOVA, I would say. What is that an adaptation? I would, if you just ask me, it is the difference in the output. So statistical difference in the output because of the change in the input. So what is the main change which I've done it, right? So that the effect is created on the output part. Normally, when we buy new products, right? That too, when we are buying a product which is a substitute for the renowned product, which I'm using. Say, for example, when mobile phone ones were invented, so they wanted to substitute it with mobile phone, laptop put together. They wanted to come out with palm tops or big tabs. It's again a substitute product. When you people are planning to buy some products which is a more substitute for the existing products, obviously we are doing ANOVA there. We'll try to understand, this is the output which I've experienced and this is the output which I'm getting. You'll try to cross compare the means or the variances, that is the average output. You will try to measure it. Again, when you're using a new technique on the old problem, you will compare the oldest technique which I used it on the problem and the new technique. I'll try to compare which technique is so new and which technique is so good. Obviously, this is again a part of your ANOVA. And when we choose the goodness of the treatment, again, you would have taken your parents or you could have taken your seniors to any treatment, any hospital. And if at all I've just witnessed this many of the times, and recent times I was witnessing that when I used to take my father for treatments, I normally witness every single hospital has got a difference in the way they give their treatment. The disease is the same, the patient is the same, and again, slight changes in the treatment that could bring a certain change in the output. That is the development in the health of the patient. So that could be expected. So these are all the places where practically I feel, okay, we are knowing or unknowingly, we are adapting the real conditions of ANOVA. So what does it ANOVA says about? Is there a statistical difference between the output? Or I would say the means. So I've just come out with another example here. Consider there are 3 medical treatments. Okay, treatment 1, treatment 2, and treatment 3. So ANOVA tells us, is there a statistical difference between means of the 3 or more independent groups? I have 3 groups, group 1, group 2, group 3, where each are given with treatment 1, treatment 2, and treatment 3. Now, considering these medical treatments, I just gave the output of it, which means how many days it took for the patients to get cured. So at the end of treatment number 1, patients got cured in 5 days. At the end of treatment number 2, right? So in that group, the patient got cured in 3 days. And in the last one, treatment number 3, patients got cured at the end of 7 days. Now, if someone asks, which one could be the better treatment? Okay, if someone asks, which one could be the better treatment? Obviously, we all know the answer. That, of course, patient, always the fast recovery, right? So the fastest recovery or how the patients are getting cured, how quickly the patients are getting cured, normally that would be treated as a best of all the treatments. So here, out of 3 treatments, treatment 2 probably would be considering as a best treatment, being patients are getting cured in 3 days. Patients are getting cured in 3 days. So that's the best of output which we could expect. Now, The problem here is identifying who are the patients who underwent the treatment in 3 groups. I need to know who are all the patients who underwent the treatment in the 3 groups. 10 people here, 10 people here, 10 people here. Okay. Now, this 10 people are getting cured a little faster comparing to treatment 1 and treatment 3. On the other side, we would have certain doubts. What if the severity of the disease of the patients who took treatment 2 is less? Definitely, I don't have an answer for this question. If the severity of the disease in the group of patients who took treatment number 2, if it is less, obviously, though the treatment is not better, they will be getting cured fastly. Even if the treatment is giving only 80% of its expected output, definitely you can expect the patients to get cured in 3 days. There could be another doubt in the same way. What if some of these patients are already had been partially cured, or if any other medications was already working on them? How do we know that one? We don't know that. Are the patients taking any other standby products for them? Are the patients already taking any other substitute treatments along with the main treatment? So we doesn't know that. So these are the underlying doubts which we have it when it comes to immunity of the patient. Yeah, true. Dr. Shruti, you're correct, ma'am. So immunity of the patient, definitely that could be one more factor. But those factors, we are failing to assess that. So now, this is where the ANOVA comes into the picture. This is the place where ANOVA comes into the picture. Whenever we lack evidence to support our decision, then it would be applicable to apply ANOVA with the data, whatever we have it. And as I told you, ANOVA is not just a statistical tool, it's a scientific tool where people, those who have used ANOVA previously, not nowadays, previously, many of the tests, whatever they've been conducted, right, they used to do it with ANOVA. One famous example, which everyone would have witnessed, hopefully people would have seen the advertisements of Horlicks, where 3 different segment of kids would be taken, and one will be given with normal drink, one with Horlicks, another one with some other drink. So they will try to measure the height, weight, and the smartness of the kids. And obviously, you know that this particular tool, what they would have used in assessing could be ANOVA. Right? So here, lack of evidence, just to support our decision, this is where ANOVA comes to the picture. I think we have set enough preface for the prelude for the concept ANOVA. So hope I'm just making it clear where we need to apply ANOVA. Participants, please feel free. You can just stop me and clarify if your doubts at any point of time. And even your chats are encouraged. But again, if at all I miss my chats, please do apologize for that. I might not, on the concentration of the presentation, I might miss the chats. But feel free, you can ask any clarifications at any point, and you can feel free to stop me at any point. Now, coming back to the session. Now, we have set the introduction for the ANOVA. So this is how the ANOVA was being thought over, and how slowly people have started discussing about this particular tool, applying on the management techniques. They've started doing that. And here in this particular session, I'm just planning to cover up these basic aspects, introduction to the ANOVA, and the basic terminologies related to ANOVA, what you need to know, starting from grand mean. Starting from the basic mean, then grand mean. How do we frame the hypothesis? Because I told you the frog story, right? After cutting the limbs, it is not use of saying the frog has turned deaf. So always hypothesis needs to be a little more clearer in understanding the tool, the application of the tool better. Next one, between group variability and within group variability. Again, one of the important aspects when you're talking about ANOVA. So in the ANOVA, the most important terminology you need to know is the group variability. So what is that? Between the groups and within the group. And F-stat, that's the F ratio which we'll talk about. And that's the ratio with which we'll test the hypothesis what we are going to declare. Okay, so if at all you just ask me F-test, again, it won't take more than 5 minutes to describe this. But again, keeping these terminologies in mind and making yourself strong in understanding where I can apply ANOVA. That's the essence of this particular session. So that is where I want you people to make a little more stronger on the application part of it. Right, on the application part of it, where I can apply ANOVA. So that could fetch you a better understanding, better wisdom about this particular tool. So that's the logic with which I worked on. Hope it would really turn useful for you. Next, we'll start with one-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, and I've just planned for MANOVA as well. But again, for doing this MANOVA, we need to have another stat, which is again that was paid when I just lost my subscription on that, so I was not able to do that one. So what I thought was ANOVA, we can do it on two things. One is on Excel and SPSS. Suppose this workshop is through, it is purely on SPSS basis. So, but still knowing little about Excel could be little useful for you. So what I felt is, I just thought of teaching you, no, it's not teaching, discussing on ANOVA, on Excel and as well as on the SPSS part. And again, two-way ANOVA, steps of how to perform two-way ANOVA in Excel and SPSS. And how to make different concepts, like how normally this is wrong on my part in teaching the shortcuts. If you are not getting the right FSTAT value, how it can be changed a little, bend a little for making our research to be more wisdom one, right? So that way we'll have some sort of shortcuts on changing certain variables. So even that we will discuss, but that is on the later part. Don't try to expect me that. But again, most of you would think that no, it is wrong on ethically. It sounds wrong that finding shortcuts for identifying the mistakes. But I would say ethical hacking, when it becomes ethical, hacking becomes ethical. Why not this one? Okay, so few people wouldn't agree, but that's fine. Let's get on with this. One second. Yes. Participants, could you please mute yourself? Sorry for the disturbance, guys. Once again, people, just hold on. Okay. Okay, so the introduction part of ANOVA, as I told you, this is again a scientific tool. So here we are going to have this basic understanding. We can use a statistical technique which can compare three treatments, samples, and depict how different these samples are from one another. Such a technique which compares the samples on the basis of their means is called ANOVA. Now, if you just look at these picture, I think you can get to know about ANOVA a little better, right? So I've just taken three groups. So group 1, group 2, and group 3. When I'm comparing the mean value of the group 1, group 2, group 3, you can just see that all the three groups are having difference in their mean value, right? So here, technique which can compare three treatment samples, the treatment is the previous example which I gave you, depict how different these samples are from one another. Now, I told you the problem here is the patients, right? The people on whom the treatment is being done, are they from the different population? That I need to know it, right? If they are from the different population, and in spite of that, there are no any other treatments that has been undertaken. So that could be another factor which we'll consider. So in spite of all these factors coming true, then if there is a huge difference in their mean values, right? Are we going to compare the samples based on their means? And that particular technique is called as your ANOVA. I'm trying to understand the variance part. Each group, how much it is varying based on their mean values. Based on their mean values, each group, how long it does vary. So that's the basic introduction for ANOVA. Analysis of variance is a statistical technique that is used to check if means of two or more groups are significantly different from each other. So ANOVA checks the impact of one or more factors by comparing the means of different samples. So as I told you, if I ask you which treatment is better, you can answer the question by noting down which treatment cures the patient faster. That is the right treatment. You can come out with the direct answer. But if I ask you that, are these treatments coming on with or been done on different partners or different samples, was it being tried? That we don't know. So to try that one, we need to apply something called as ANOVA, right? So hope I'm just making sense for you. Try to check the mean values. So how the mean values are closely related, or there is there is a huge difference between the mean values. This is what we are going to discuss on the ANOVA. So, and the hypothesis what we declare is also equally relying on the mean part of each data set. Okay. Fine. So the terminology is related to the ANOVA. The first terminology, basically what we come across with the mean value. the grand mean. Normally, we get the mean values. You know that. So if I have a set of data, the stream of data, I'll just accumulate the values, divide by the total number of sample, then I'll get the mean value. There are two kinds of mean which we use in the ANOVA, which separates the sample mean and the grand mean. Grand mean is nothing but mean of sample values. So for this, I would like you people to refer dataset number 1. Right? For this, I would ask you people to refer dataset number 1. Hopefully, you would have received the dataset 1, the participants which I gave you. Okay, so this is the dataset which I've shared it with you. So here, we are doing a small analysis on a small test. What we do is, we are giving 3 different lecture modes. Okay, we are giving 3 different lecture mode. One is, I'm just giving a lecture mode with more colorful videos, and there is an audio lecturing along with the colorful video. Okay, on the other side, we are having a discussion mode of lecturing, right? Normally, we involve students also in the discussion. Then we'll try to deliver a concept. That is the second section. That is for class B. I'm going with the discussion mode. There is other section, that is section C, class C, where I'm going with the lecture mode alone. What I deliver is, I'll deliver only the lecture part. Right? There is no video, there is no audio associated to that. There is no discussion involved. Rather, it is a monologue. The teacher goes there and starts the lecturing part, and he or she will try to complete the session. So that is lecturing mode. So they are giving 3 different lecturing mode, and they wanted to identify which could be the better mode of delivery, which could be the better mode for delivery when it comes to the students' betterment. And they wanted to identify based on the output. The output, what we consider here is the test scores of the students. Okay, the test scores of the students are being considered. Okay, so hope I'll just get this clear. We are having 3 different classes, class A, class B, class C. The mode of delivery for each class is different. The first class, they are going with the video and lecture. The second class, they are going with the discussion mode. And the third class, they are going with the lecture mode. Now they wanted to compare, they wanted to identify which could be the better mode of delivery, like your treatment itself. One second, people, I just... Okay, people, I think now you people would have able to see the data set 1. Okay, so here we'll just see the data set. As I told you, we are having 3 sections, class A, class B, and class C. And we are having the, based on the test scores, we are doing the assessment. One second. Participants, as of now, we'll just mute you all. Okay. So we do 3 assessments here, and 3 different modes of lecture. And based on the test score, I need to assess which lecture mode could be okay, which lecture mode could be the better one. As I told you, this is as simple as the treatment example. We are having 3 different treatments, 3 set of patients. We'll tell them how we do it. So normally based on the days, how frequent, how quickly it gets cured. Based on that, we tell the goodness of the treatment. Similarly here, goodness of the lecture also, I'm doing it based on the test scores. So I've taken the test scores. So here what I do is I'm calculating the mean value of the first test. So this particular test, the people, those have attempted those have underwent the colorful videos and the lecture mode of delivery, they have scored this 795,868. Those are the scores of those people out of 10. When I calculate the mean value, I can easily come out with the solution. The solution here is the first mode of delivery. That is, when you're having lecture along with colorful video, the people, they have attempted to score better results. People, they have underwent the mode of delivery on that. They are getting the best results here. On the second side, if you just see, lecture mode has taken 4.3 as your average mean. Mean of the scores, and class B, it is 4. Now this is called as mean values of each lecturing mode. Now I'm trying to find the grand mean of that. So grand mean is finding the mean of the individual group mean values. So I've identified that one also. So now keeping this grand mean and the whole mean comparison, I can easily understand that. So this class A has got the highest of all deviation, because from the mean value, the value what that particular scores the class A delivered was much, much higher than the other two. So probably this could be the best lecture mode which we can have it. But on the contrary, we will have certain doubts like, what if the students of this particular course are one of the few of the brightest students they would have selected for? If they have chosen few of the brightest students for this particular lecture mode, then definitely they would have performed more, whatever be the mode of delivery. And if at all they have chosen a sample from a poor set of students, then definitely again you can expect here the performance of lecture mode and the discussion mode could be poor. Now, this is where the ANOVA comes into the picture. So the first basic identification where we can apply ANOVA or not, first you need to know whether you are having the different groups for comparison. And if you have that one, of course, you can apply for the ANOVA. Next, important people, the solving of that, we'll just come back. First, we'll get to know more about the terminologies part. Then we'll get on with the analysis part. The next one is your hypothesis. So when you're declaring hypothesis, as I told you, the testing of hypothesis happens based on the results. What we get from the output is purely based on the hypothesis what we declare. Right? Only then we can get to know whether the hypothesis and the results are matching or not. So the basic form of writing hypothesis, as you all know, there are always two types. One is null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. The null hypothesis in ANOVA is valid when all the sample means are equal. Okay, the null hypothesis in ANOVA is valid when all the sample means are equal or they don't have significant differences. Now, if you look at the example, the data set, if you look at the mean values of each group, right, the mean value of each group, the sample means what we have calculated, it is having first, that is your class B and class C having a small change in the sample means, but whereas the first group is having extremely a change in the value, right? It is much higher than the last two, the second section and the B section and C sections, right? So that is going to be the null hypothesis for us. So null hypothesis is valid when all the sample means are equal or they don't have a significant difference in their mean values. Okay, if at all you have the significant difference in the mean value, then you need to read the alternate hypothesis. On the other hand, the alternate hypothesis is valid when at least one of the sample mean is different from rest of the sample means. Okay, one of the sample mean is different from the rest of the sample means. Okay, then you can just say that, okay, alternate hypothesis, of course, you can expect your alternate hypothesis can be accepted. This is the logic of choosing your hypothesis. So always when you're doing ANOVA, the basic identification, whether the test seems to be testworthy or not, how do we know that the data is worthy of that or not? The basic thing is I need to understand the sample means of each group. If the sample means of each group are close, are having almost equal, there is no significant difference in the mean values, then that should be the representation that the null hypothesis is much better. Null hypothesis should be accepted. On the other hand, alternate hypothesis, if the mean values are having a drastic difference, if the mean values are having so much of difference, at least one group of the sample mean is having difference, then we call that as support for the alternate hypothesis. So in the other words, null hypothesis states that all the sample means are equal or the factor did not have significant effect on the results. This is where we need to concentrate here. So this is for understanding when I would consider the null hypothesis accepted and alternate is accepted. So here we would say how to derive or how to draft the null hypothesis. So null hypothesis always says that there is no significant effect on the whatever be it, on the results, effect on the output. So that is how we need to derive the or draft the null hypothesis part. The sample means are equal or the factor did not have any significant effect on the results. Whereas the alternate hypothesis states at least one of the sample mean is different from one another, but we still can't tell that which one especially. Because in ANOVA, you can just say when you're comparing three, unless you do the post hoc test, we cannot come out with which is having a better impact on the other two. So that we need to identify. So when we are solving the cases of that three different delivery mode of the lecture, we'll get to know about this little more detail. So as of now, you need to understand that when say sample means are having almost equal values, then null hypothesis has to be accepted. And if you are having at least one of the sample mean is totally different, then alternate hypothesis can be valid. The next one is, yes, as I told you, this is the most essential part of the whole ANOVA, between the group variability and within the group variability. So here, once again, I'll just switch back to the data set. I'll help you identifying what is that between group variability and within group variability. Normally, you know that how you need to calculate the variance part of it. So for calculating that variance, VAR of set number 1. I'm calculating the variance for all the three. I'm calculating the variance for all the three. Now, when you do the calculation of variance, you can just find that all the variances are almost equal. All the variances, that is the variance within the group. Okay, that is the variance within the group. That is group 1, group 2, group 3. You can just see, identify the variance value is almost on the same side. And that we call it as here, the variability between the groups and variability within the groups. So when you're having this normal distribution curve, right? When you're identifying the normal distribution curve, the distance between the curve, right? The rising and the falling part of it, that we call it as a variability within the group. And the difference between the mean part, that is the difference between the mean part. So here and here, this we call it as the variability between the groups. This we call it as the variability between the groups. So why I need to look at these two aspects? Now, when I started this ANOVA, I just told you people that when we deriving or when we are trying to identify the importance of ANOVA, it's always trying to say that when do I apply ANOVA? So it is when I apply ANOVA, I need to identify, is there any difference in the samples what I've taken for the testing? Is there any difference in the samples what I've taken for the testing? So when you have all the three samples or all the three variances between the groups, then you are trying to identify my variance is not going to have too much of variability on the between the groups. That is group 1 when I compare with the group 2, then within the group, I can do the measurement here, right? Within the group, I can do the measurement here. Which one is higher or which one is lesser? So that is the total measure which we need to do it. So when I do that measure, I'll try to identify this, that is variance between the groups and variance within the group. Consider the distribution of the below three samples. As these three samples overlap, you can just see here in the first example, you can just see the variances getting overlap. That is your normal distribution curve is getting overlap thrice, right? So now look at the variance within the group. There is a huge variance within the group, and between the group, if you just look at it, the variance between the group is so small. The variance between the group is so small here. As these three samples overlap, their individual means won't differ by great margin. Hence, the difference between their individual means and grand mean won't be significant enough. when you're having this particular parabolic, means your normal distribution curve, it means that the samples are having overlapping structure. So sample 1, sample 2, sample 3, that is the blue, orange, and the green one. All the three are getting overlapped. So when they are getting more overlap, you can identify that there is no significant difference between the individual mean, that is the group mean. That is, individual mean is not going to vary with the grand mean. On the other side, right, on the other side, variance between the groups and within the groups, you can just look at this structure. All the three samples are having a different curve. Now, variance between the group, right? Variance between the group and variance within the group. Variance within the group is found to be smaller. Variance within the group is found to be much, much smaller when compared to the variance between the group. So when you have this one, the difference between the individual means and the grand mean would there also be so significant. Now we'll have this particular issue. Here comes the real issue of where I'll get this sort of a normal distribution, where I'll get this sort of normal distribution. Whenever you're having the variance value between the three groups, that is, in that example, in the data set, in the example where we saw, we have 3.3 for all, almost. The last one alone, we are having 3.4, right? When we are doing that one, we can get to know that the individual means is not that much varying with the grand mean, or the individual mean and the grand mean is having so much of variance. So that is what we are trying to assess. So if there is too much of variance, if there is too much of variability between the individual mean and the group mean, then your curves would be of this sort. You'll be having so much of the three samples will not have any overlap at all. And if you have all the three samples getting overlapped, you can identify that there is no significant difference between the grand mean and the sample mean. Hope I'm just making sense. People, this is again a very essential part of your whole of ANOVA, because when you do interpretation, this understanding the variances becomes more, that is within the group and between the group. Understanding that would get you a little more understanding of that. So even here, we can just spend little time on which, because all the other aspect, it is little easy for you to understand. So there is not going to be much difficulty unless you understand this part. Okay, so where I'll have the change in the variance value. Okay, so between the groups and within the groups. And here, these are the various outputs which you can measure it in different projects. Whenever you take up all the projects, these kind of outputs you can witness. If at all you are having this one, so say for example, these two we have already seen. We have not seen this particular part. So here, if we just look at the value, all the three samples, right? Here we are seeing three normal distribution curve. All the three groups are having no much discrimination, very, very little discrimination only there, because that's the reason why you can just see small change in the, or small gap between the three samples, small gap between the three samples. And if you just measure the mean value, if you just measure the mean value here, the mean value also seems to be almost the same, right? The mean value also seems to be a little more same. So which means that there is no discrimination between the samples what you have taken to conduct ANOVA. If you take up the treatment example, in the treatment example, if you're getting this sort of curve, which means that all the three groups of people are almost from the same population. So there is no huge discrimination here. So normally, if that is a case, then the treatment 2, we found it to be more prominent. The treatment 2, we found it to be more prominent. That was proving more prominent, which means that is the correct output. So treatment 2 is better. Okay, people are able to identify this. Are able to grab this point. So how do I say this is, when we are having no huge differences in the mean values, then all these population, all these samples are almost from the same population. So if that is the case, then even all the groups are from the same population, the output measure, whatever I have taken, it is going to be the best of it, right? So the treatment 2 is a best treatment because all the three samples are from the same output. There is no significant difference in the value, right? And coming back to this one. So here we have a certain discrimination here. If you just look at the variance value, as I told you, if I take sample 1, okay, this is sample 1. In this sample 1, if you just measure the variance, right? Check out this. This is having so huge. Here it is so less. Okay. So here it is so huge. Here it is so less. This we have already discussed in the previous slide. Okay. And again, this also we have discussed. So this is one within the group variance, and this is between the group variance. This is between the group variance. Again, this also we have discussed in the previous slide. So these two, of course, it needs different understanding. And coming to the third one, here, if you just look at it, discrimination between the two groups, but not the third. Just look at the sample of mean of the two groups. So here the mean of the two groups are having almost the same value, right? But look at the third mean. The third mean is from the totally different sample. Okay, the third mean is totally from the different sample. So here you need to identify based on the mean values whether your groups are falling under the same with where we have a little discrimination, or you have some discrimination between the groups, or you have larger discrimination between the groups, or we have discrimination between two groups, but the third group is totally different. So how do we have this one? So based on the mean, we need to identify these. Based on the mean, we need to identify these. And again, between the group variability, when we are doing it, we are doing something called as sum of squares, right? So sum of squares between and MS between, and we need to calculate. Between means, say for example, SG is the grand mean. I'm calculating the square value of other groups. Okay, this is again square value of the other groups. I'm calculating the squares. So why this square values? So when I calculate the sum of squares divided by the sample, I'll get the between group variability. Similarly, I'll do it for MS, that is mean square. Mean square, it is again between the groups. So when I divide these two values, I'll get the F stat value. So when I divide these two values, I'll get the F stat value. I'll just have one more thing called as error. So when I find the error and I divide, then I'll get the F stat value. So for calculating the F stat value, this is the essential part, right? And as I told you, this is between the groups. I'm identifying the variability, and this is again within the group. So within the group, I'm calculating the square values. So normally when you're doing ANOVA, you need not know all these aspects because all these are already systematically done it is. But once you wanted to correct your project, so something going wrong in my project where I'm not able to correct it. At that time, only if you know the individual group's mean value, individual group's variance value, you can do certain changes in the value to bring the expected F critic value or the F stat value. Right? That is your end output, F stat. That's the end of the other outputs. So for identifying that, you need to know the basics of this. I'll just let you know how the changes could happen. And the last terminology, which is more essential, is the F stat value. So the basic difference is between the group variability divided by the within the group variability. So when you divide these two, you will be getting F stat, F ratio. So by using this, I can identify which group is having more significance difference or which group is having less significant difference. So that I can do the analysis. So that's the reason F stat is the last ratio cover which we will have it. Okay. Of course, this will just come back a little later. Now we'll just switch over to the ANOVA. How do we put it in the Excel and in the SPSS also, right? So probably we'll start with Excel. Okay, in the Excel, I'll start. Then I'll just go on with your SPSS also. We'll go on with the same data. One by one, we'll just see. So basically, when you are applying for one second. So basically, when we are using tools using Excel, Excel seems to be a little more viable. And I just always feel that Excel is a little easy when it comes to the ANOVA part. But of course, SPSS has got its own advantages. I'm not denying that. But still, basic, if you know about that SPSS in the Excel, it is a little more easy for you to change the values here and get the testing results immediately. So even that, it is possible here without knowing much of programming senses when you need it for SPSS. So that's the logic of doing this. So I'll take up this particular data set and I'll try to apply one-way ANOVA. Right. So here, one-way ANOVA, how do we do it is first we need to go to the data. So in the data, majority of the time, you'll find this tab called data analysis. You can even check it in your, if at all you're on the system, you can just check it across. You will have this data analysis. If you don't have this data analysis tab in your data, I'll tell you how to bring that first. So the first one, what you need to do is click on this file, go to the options. In the options, you can find add-ins. Okay, in the options, you can find add-ins. Clicking on that add-ins, it will take you all these packages. What are the add-ons available for the SPSS? Sorry, for the Excel. So here, the first package which you need to click on that analysis tool pack. So click on that and click on Go. So once you click on Go, automatically this data analysis tab will be appearing on the data. Okay, so people hope this has already been done previously. So if not, you can just make a note of this one. File, options, add-ins, analysis tool pack, Go, then click on OK. It will be available in the data analysis tool. Okay, so since I've already done that, I've taken the data analysis part. So now click on the data analysis. So now once you click on this data analysis, you can just see different set of tools which is available for us. First one, ANOVA single factor, two factor with replication, without replication, correlation, and again descriptive statistics, exponential smoothing, F-test, two various samples of variances. So these many tests are possible to run here. And let us identify, we'll just stop with ANOVA and I'll just use this t-test for assuming the difference between the groups, which group is having so much huge variances that I need to understand. So now I'll click on this ANOVA single factor, click on OK. It will take you to this particular set. So here you need to select this set. Test scores of students. From there, you can just click on the values. Don't take up the mean values. Don't consider the mean values. Just take up only the data. Okay, just take only the data. Now, these data are grouped row-wise. So I've just clicked on the rows. If not, you can click on the columns. Okay, so here, all the sample are representing rows. So I'm just clicked on the row. Then you need to click on that label is in the first column or the first row. So when you click on the first row, it will take you that the test scores as a label of it. It will consider that one also. Then alpha value is 0.05, which is your the test of significance. Normally we use this particular value when we are using p-value. We'll compare it with alpha, then we'll arrive at the final test. So this is the basic thing which you need to know, and you need to know where I need to take my output. Okay, where I need to take my output. So here I just clicked on new worksheet. So it will take me to the new worksheet there. Okay, so it will take me to the new worksheet. So I'll click on OK. It will take you to the new output value. Okay, it will take you to the new output value. So which I have taken here. Since I've already done that, I will take you to this particular thing. Again, if you do that, you'll be given with this particular output. Okay, so here you can just see row 1, row 2, row 3. All these are nothing but your individual tests, which is if at all the delivery of lecture is video and lecturing, right? Video and lecture. So that's your mode for class A. And here it is discussion mode. And here it is lecture mode. Okay, so we are coming out with 3 outputs here. So 3 groups which we have discussed. So the total value, the variance, already I've computed the variance in the previous data sheet. You can just look at the data sheet there. Already the variance we have calculated, and you can cross check that whether the variance are having the same value. Okay, the variance are having the same. And even the mean which we have calculated already, even the mean values are found to be the same. Now, here we'll just come out with these values. Of course, these are not having a greater importance, but you need to know. SS, sum of squares, I told you. So here, between the groups, the sum of square value is 54. Within the groups, you are having 90. And MS, that is mean square value. Again, it is showing 27.3 and 3.33. All these are the basic calculations which we have seen in the previous line, in the slides we have seen. And when you're writing the interpretation, these 3 factors are very critical. Okay, these 3 factors are again much critical for me to write the interpretation part. So F and F critic. So the F value is the value which I told you, right? So there would be something called error. So I need to divide these 2 values so that I'll get the F stat value, right? So that is how I've arrived at the F stat value. So F stat value I've just arrived at here. F critic is a table value, right? Normally in the F critic, in your t test and z test, you will be looking at the table value and you will be finding the table value, comparing it with the real means. So here also I'm doing the same. So F critic and F, I'm trying to do the comparison. Always the final output, how do you measure is F value should be greater than F critic. No, F value should be greater than the F critic. So if that is the case, then you can just come back to this testing part where you can identify what needs to be the output form for it. So F stat should be always higher than the F critic. So that is the place where we reject null hypothesis. On the other side, right, one is F stat with F critic. That is one comparison we'll do. On the other comparison, we'll do the p-value check. P-value that we need to cross-check with the alpha value. So as you all know that alpha, what I've taken is 0.05. 0.05 is the alpha value which I've taken. And here my p-value is 0.0001. So much lesser. Okay, so here the p-value is lesser than the alpha value. So again, so here two tests we need to do it. One, whether it is F is greater than F critic. F is greater than F critic. Next, p-value is greater than alpha. Sorry, p-value is lesser than alpha value. P-value is whether it is less than or alpha value. This is the basic test which we need to do it. So hope this is the way the ANOVA is being conducted now. So now what we try to identify through this is we are trying to eliminate that rejection. We just go back to the hypothesis which we discussed in the null hypothesis. In the slides part. We just go back there and you can get to know how you have to identify the differences here. Yeah, so this is the hypothesis which we declare. So null hypothesis, where how I declared it is valid when all the sample means are equal. Okay, on the other side, I just told you this one also. Sample means are equal or the factor did not have a significant effect on the results. Okay, this is how I have declared the hypothesis part. Now coming back to the F stat and F critic value. So you know that lower the F ratio, more similar are the sample means. Lower the yes ma'am.
The screen is not visible.
One second, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you for that. Hope it is visible now.
So please back.
One second. Were you able to view the slides? I'm just on the slides picture only. So hope
Excel.
Oh, Excel you wanted to share. Okay, one second. Okay, I've shared the Excel sheet.
Yes. यही पर है सर.
Okay.
इसके बाद आपने जो बोला वो रह गया.
Sure. So coming back to this, F critic and F value, we have measured it. I told you that the F critic, that is lower the F ratio, more similar are the sample mean. In that case, we can reject the null hypothesis. So here, look at the value here. F ratio is 8 and F critic is around 3. Okay, so the static which measures if the means of different samples are significantly different or not is called as F ratio. Lower the F ratio, more similar are the sample means. In that case, we can reject the null hypothesis. So rejection of null hypothesis happens only when the F ratio is lower. Okay, rejection of null hypothesis happens only if your F ratio, that is your F value is greater than that, then I need to reject the null hypothesis. But here F ratio is greater. F ratio is greater than that. So I am forced to accept the null hypothesis, which means that there is no significant difference between the 3 different modes of lecture. there is no significant difference between 3 modes of lecture. So I am trying to accept null. So the basic difference, what I calculate here is F critic and F value. So based on that calculation, we do that one, right? So now we'll just do the same on the SPSS part. On the SPSS, again, we'll just get on with one more data set, which I gave you. That is on the data set 1, SPSS 1-way ANOVA. So you can just click on that data set. You can just click on that data set. Now I move on to the SPSS part. Now you can just click on that data set. Data set 1 for ANOVA. I hope you people are able to view my screen, SPSS screen.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you. So here, again, you can just look at the difference in the way I've represented the data. You can just see the difference in the way which I've represented the data. So here, I've just represented 111, which means the class mode, right? So the first class mode, all the 10 scores I have written here. Okay. Then class mode 2, all the test scores I have written here. Then test score 3, class delivery mode 3, their test scores I have mentioned here. So like your Excel, we cannot go ahead with the same representation of the data. So here I need to modify the data a little. When I'm representing the data, I need to modify a little before I go for applying ANOVA in the SPSS part. Okay, people, can I just make it one more time? So how do I do that on the delivery of, in the SPSS, how do we make a delivery? Change in the data. First thing, you know the 3 delivery modes we are having it. One is video and lecture. Second one, discussion. Third one is only lecture. So here what I do is, I'm trying to give you first output delivery mode. That is section number for class A. I'm just giving video and lecturing, their test scores. Okay. Next, class 2 and their test scores, where they are given with the discussion mode of lecturing. Next, class 3, where they are having lecture mode. Okay, so 3 modes and their 3 scores I'm given here. So this is how different it is little from the data which you have used for your Excel. Now coming back to the analysis part. So click on the analysis, click on the descriptive, click on the compare means. So you, as I told you initially, Excel, ANOVA is nothing but comparing the means one on the other. So literal meaning on that, we'll take up compare means. So under that, you can find 1-way ANOVA. Okay, compare means you'll be finding 1-way ANOVA. Always your score becomes your dependent list. Okay, before getting into this, I would like to touch little on the variable view. People, when you're looking at the variable view, all the other elements, I think it would have been already discussed. So I would stress more on the measure part. Here, the measure part is mode of delivery is nominal and the score I've given as a scale. So ANOVA, I think during the second class, you would have come across with scales called categorical and continuous scales, categorical variable and continuous variable, dependent and independent. So if you just look at that value, you can just see that ANOVA will be applied when you're having your dependent variable as scale and independent variable as your nominal. So as your continuous and categorical. So when you have these two only, I can apply ANOVA. So when you're just importing the data inside, try to see that the measures are correctly noted. Okay. Score dependent. Dependent means it should be in the scale. Scale representing continuous value, continuous variable. Okay, continuous. Then mode of delivery, it is nominal. Okay, mode of delivery is nominal and mode of delivery is independent. So when independent is in categorical and dependent variable is in the scale, then I can go ahead with applying the ANOVA. So that's the basic identification. So now we'll get into the applying ANOVA. So go to 1-way ANOVA, right? So now I'll give on this one. Score goes to the dependent list. Mode of delivery comes to the independent. Okay, goes to the dependent and independent. Now you can click on the contrast. So you need not click or do any changes on the contrast part. And as I told you, this is post hoc. Post hoc test, of course, we can just do 3 post hoc tests. Initially, what I thought was we can do 3 post hoc, which is so basic when it comes to ANOVA. Okay, LSD, least square difference, and Bonferroni and Turkey. So these 3 are the basic post hoc test which we do it. And I'll tell you the interpretation of each test, why these tests are run along with the ANOVA. Okay, first we'll just check with ANOVA how it is working. Then we'll come to this particular point, how this Turkey test or the LSD or Bonferroni works. Okay, so as of now, we'll just click on this ANOVA first. Let's complete this one. Okay, in case you can just click on this one way ANOVA. After clicking on these 2, click on this descriptors. I just forgot to say this one. Click on options descriptive. Okay, please note this one as well. I need to get the descriptive values. Continue. You can touch on the post hoc also. It is already 6:35, so I need to complete 2 way. So what I'll do is I'll do the Turkey, Bonferroni, and LSD test. All the tests together, I'll do it. Right. So hope this would be a little more encouraging for you people to learn together. Post hoc has been applied now. Okay. Now coming back to this, continue. When I do this, click on OK. Okay. So now you have got the certain values of this. Okay, so now we'll get on with the subset values. Class B, Class C. Oh, okay, fine. Already we have done that post hoc once again. So reshare output page, sir. Once again. People, were you able to view this output? Can anyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fine. So this is the output page of it. So as I told you already, first one, when I check on ANOVA, I need to know the F stat value, right? The first element, what I need to know is the F. F, it is 8.18, which I already know that because I've done the Excel. In the Excel also, I've got the same answer. So here, I'm just getting the same answer as well. So there is no problem in the F stat. And significant value is again 0.02, which is less than your alpha value, right? Which is less than your alpha value. So the output is already measured. So here we know that already that we need to accept null. There is a significant difference between the, there is no significant difference between the values. So that we have already done it. So the output of SPSS also conveys the same. Now, coming back to the post hoc test. So the post hoc test will tell you, out of these 3 groups, which group is the best one or which group is having a significant difference in the mean value when compared to the other group's mean value, right? When compared to the other group's mean value, which is having the significant difference. Now, you can just compare the Turkey HSD and LSD value and Bonferroni value. So all these 3 are the post hoc test, which we need to do it along with the ANOVA. So when I do it here, you can just look at the significance value, right? Class B and Class C, the significance is 0.03 and 0.07. For Class A and Class C, when I do it, 0.03, 9.29. Class A and Class B, when I do it, it is 0.07 and 9.929. So now the significance value, when I do this Turkey test, right? So all these 3, almost 2, that is your A, B and AC. AB and AC is having the highest significance here in the 0.929 value, right? In the 0.929, you are having the highest value. And you can just look at the other value, which is 0.003. Here it is 0.03. Here also it is the same. And here also it is value is 0.007. Now comparing these two, that the significance value, where the significance value is much lesser than the alpha value, right? The alpha what I've considered is 0.05. So here, when I consider the combination of class B with class C, when I have the combination of class A with class C, when I have the combination of class A with class B, obviously class A and class C is having 0.03 and 0.929. And here it is 0.07 and 0.07. So here, if you look at this, this is the only set that is, once again, I'll try to highlight it here. That is, your B and C is having the lowest significance, right? The B and C is having the lowest significance, which means that the group B and the group C could have the similar mean values, whereas A will definitely have a different mean value. That is the representation of this post hoc test. So what does it mean? In this test, class A is significantly outbeaten the other. The reason is class B and class C are from the same set of the population, whereas class A from the different set of population. And class B and class C, you can find it, the significant values are less. Whereas when you're having class A and C, one is 0.929. A and B, we are having another one is 0.929, which means that AC, AB is not the right combination. The right combination is B and C, which means that B and C will have the almost the closest mean values. B and C are having the closest mean values, which means that they are from the same set of a population. So that we are trying to prove it here. And even when we are calculating the sample means of each, we have tried to identify it. So this is the test that proves that, okay, B and C could be from the same population, right? So this is the importance of post hoc test using the Turkey 2K HSD test, right? And even if you can just say the LSD test as well. So LSD test also, it is saying B and C is having the lowest significance. Bonferroni is also having the lowest significance, right? Is also having the lowest significance. So these are the three post hoc tests which you can use it for any two groups, to identify out of three groups, which of the two groups are having similar mean and which of the one group is having the totally a different mean when compared to the other two. I can identify that one by comparing the significance of the post hoc tests. Right, so post hoc, it will give you a better picture of what is the real aspect. So you might wonder, post hoc, can I do it on the Excel? Of course, in the Excel also you can do the post hoc test, but instead on the Excel when you're doing it, you need to. I'll share the Excel sheet again. When you're doing the post hoc on the Excel sheet, so here you need to do t-test. Normally, when you have attended the session on the t-test, they would have told you that comparison of two different groups, you can do the t-test. Of course, as I tell, in ANOVA also it is the same. Okay, comparison of two, you can, when you're comparing two tests, you can do the t-test here. So what I did here is, I've taken the same data, right? I've taken the same data. In the data, I've applied the t-test. Okay, t-test for the assuming two equal variance. So that is a test which I applied here. You can just see here, two sample assuming equal variance. Okay, I'm assuming that these two are having the equal variance. So based on that, I'm trying to do this analysis. So once you click on that, go to that factor, go to that test, two sample assuming equal variance, click OK. It will ask you for variable range 1 and variable range 2. So what I need to do is I'll try to compare each one. I need to compare each one. I need to compare it with other one. Say for example, I compare A with B. Okay, so first I'll choose A, then I'll choose B. Okay, so labels are there. Output range. Okay, for example, I'll just click on the new scale. Okay, you are getting it. So here you can just see the output here. So now for A and B, I've done the two sample t-test. Okay, I've done it for A and B. Okay, same way I've done it for all the three. So the output file is here. right? I've done it for all the three. A and B I've done, A and C I've done, B and C I've done. Now, when you look at the values here, right? When you look at the values here, which one is the significant when you're trying to identify? You can just see here, A, when I do it, it is 0.001. And here it is like when you're comparing B and C, right? You're having the highest value, right? When you're comparing the B and C, you're having the highest T-tail test. So which means that these two are from the similar groups. Okay, sample A, class B, the samples taken under class B, samples taken under class C are almost from the same section. That's the reason why we are having the highest P value here, 0.7178. Whereas other two tests, if you just look at it, it is lesser. Okay, other two tests, when you look at it, it is lesser. So this is the post hoc test, what you can do it in the Excel itself. Okay, even if you don't have SPSS, even in the Excel, you can prove that which two groups are having the significance. So this is how I will try to prove it off. Right. So hope you people get to know about Excel as well as on the SPSS, how this F ratio or the how the P value and alpha value can be compared, and the F value and the F critic value can be compared to identify the results. So this is one way ANOVA. So the output I just shared it. So now what we'll do is we'll get on with a two-way ANOVA, right? So for which I'm coming out with another data set. So for when I go for two-way ANOVA, I'm just comparing another factor also. So before the first factor, what I've considered is I've taken the lecture mode, I've compared it with the scores. Only two things I've taken. So here what I'm trying to consider is I'm taking the gender and I'm trying to take up age, and I'm trying to consider whether these two factors impact the score, whether these two factors can create impact on the scores. So I'm trying to do this one. Thank you, Chandrakala ma'am. Thank you for that. So now I'll go on with SPSS for the two-way ANOVA. So these are the basic data. People, I've shared you with the data set 2. I've shared you the data set for SPSS two-way ANOVA. Please click on that and you can just get to know the current data set what I've used for. So that data set would be of this type. Boys, 9 data. Girls, I've got 9 data. Scores of the boys and girls, I've compared it here. And the age group. If you look at the age group, 10 years, 11 years, and 12 years, I have boys and girls all together. Okay, I have boys and girls of age group 10, age group 11, and 12. And again, girls, age group 10, age group 11, and age group 12. If you consider now, based on the age and boys, we are having totally 6 groups. Okay, people, are you able to get this point? So what I'm trying to convey is, we are having 6 groups here. How do I say it is 6 groups is? This is, okay, the highlighter and testing. The 10 years boys, group number 1. 11 years boys, group number 2. Okay, next, 12 years boys, group number 3. Similarly, we are having the other 3 groups for girls. So 3 plus 3, totally 6 groups we are taking. So two-way ANOVA can be applied, right? Two-way ANOVA can be applied only if you are able to consider 2 factors, gender and age along with the score. So when you're taking gender with age, minimum you need to have 3 different variances. So 2 by 3 is the matrix which you need to take it. 2 by 3 is a matrix which you wanted to take it. So when you take 2 by 3 matrix, it is totally 6 different groups will be available. So when you're having 6 different groups, only then two-way ANOVA is possible. So when you're considering for any other project, right, even if you're doing some sort of economic analysis, secondary data, even then you can take 6 different groups, make yourself available, and any data you can apply it for the ANOVA. Right. So now let's get on with the SPSS. In the SPSS, I'll just move to the two-way data.
Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening, ma'am.
Sir, please explain again this two-way ANOVA.
Okay, ma'am. Sure. I'll start once again. So here, as of now, I told you that the group of the group requirements for two-way ANOVA. So basically, when we are doing the one-way ANOVA, what we considered is we have taken three different groups: section A, section B, section C, with a different lecturing mode. Based on the scores, I've compared the three groups. Just that's all. That's one-way ANOVA. So I've taken three different groups for comparing the scores. I've done the ANOVA test. Now, when you're coming with the two-way ANOVA, I need to introduce one more factor also. So here, I just came out with a new example. So what I did is I've taken gender and age. Okay, I've taken two factors, gender and age. And I'm trying to consider whether the score is having any sort of dependence on these two factors. Okay, does the gender and age creates any sort of impact on the score? So I need to do that analysis for me. So now to do that analysis, I've taken the data here. I've taken boys and girls. So 9 boys and 9 girls I've taken. Their scores I've given. Now, when it comes to the age group, I need to take different age groups again. So what I've done, I've taken age group of 10 years, age group of 11 years, and age group of 12 years. So when we are having three different groups, now gender 2, age 3. So 2 by 3 is a matrix size. 2 by 3 is a group size. Always when you're doing the two-way ANOVA, you need to make sure that either you need to have 2 by 2 or 2 by 3. Anything less than that, two-way ANOVA cannot be applied. Okay, so when you're applying two-way ANOVA, you need to have 2 by 3 or 2 by 2. Minimum requirement is that. Okay, ma'am, I hope you're able to, hope I made sense for you. Hope I just made it clear.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. So we'll just get on with the SPSS file. Dataset SPSS two-way, right? So I've used that data here. You can just look at the data here. Again, I've just taken the same data, boys and girls. I have two scores, and I have three different age groups for two different genders. 3 different age groups for 2 different genders. That's the logic when you're using the two-way ANOVA. When you're starting your two-way ANOVA, you mean to make sure that you need to have 2 by 3 or 2 by 2 matrix. So 2 genders with 2 age groups is okay. 2 genders with 3 age groups is also okay. Fine. So now let's get on with the analysis part. So when you're doing a two-way analysis, two-way ANOVA, click on analysis.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, you are not able to. Okay. One second. Let me share the screen. I understand. Okay, now I've shared the screen. People, you can just see the screen now, I hope. So I have boys and girls and 3 different age groups. So now I click on analyze. So here also we are just doing the comparing means, but again, we cannot go to the compare means for two-way ANOVA. So for two-way ANOVA, I need to go to the general linear model. I'm trying to arrive at the relationship. So here, this is the basic for what you're going to learn for the next 2 days. That is for factor analysis and for your correlation and regression. When you're having ANOVA in hand, then definitely it is easy for you to understand those two in fact, because you know that which factor has got more, can create more impact on the output. Now, general linear model, univariate analysis. So once you get to know the univariate analysis, like last test, like your ANOVA 1, you can click on the dependent variable. Your dependent variable is score. And your independent variable, which comes as your fixed factor, that is gender and age. Okay, so again, clicking on the options part, click on the descriptive statistics. People, you can just have a little concentration here. You can just click on the descriptive statistics. Again, I can do the postdocs here. Again, I can do the postdoc here. Postdoc already we have discussed. Same logic here also. There is no any difference about the postdoc test here. You can click on the postdocs. Click on LSD, Bonferroni, and 2K. Normally, these are the renownedly used tools. Even I don't know why it is being considered as why they are renownedly used. I'm just trying to find answers for that. But these are the renownedly used tools, but you can make use of that. Now click on that. One more thing is when you're calculating that univariate, when you're doing the ANOVA 2, click on that model. In the model, ensure that the sum of squares, it should be always type 3. Sum of squares, it should be always type 3. Default, it would be type 3. If at all changed, then definitely you need to check on that one as well. Okay, check on that one as well, that it needs to be type 3. Okay, so now I've just got the output. Let me share the output of. You can just see the output screen here. Okay, between the subject factors. Okay, so here you can just see the warning here. The warning says that post-hoc tests are not performed for gender because there are fewer than 3 groups. I told you, right? So normally it is when you're having more groups, it is better to apply for this. So you'll be getting better results. So when you're having with less than that, it will show you the warning. But let's see how it has done the post-hoc. First, let's get on with the test between the subjects effects. First, we need to get on with these subjects. Okay, I need to consider the effect. Now, EF value. So that's the first basic difference. So I need to have it. It is 5.64 and age is 8.206. Look at the significance value. That is your P value. Okay, look at the significance value. It is 0.035 and 0.006. 0.0035 and 0.036. Both these values are less than the alpha value. Okay, both these values are less than the alpha value. So here, for this particular test, I've I've drafted a hypothesis little better. So I'll just show you the hypothesis first, then we'll come back to the output file. So the hypothesis, what I've declared for the two-way ANOVA is, I've declared H1, that is your first null hypothesis, that is gender will have no significant effect on the score. Gender will have no significant effect on the score. My second null hypothesis, what I've done is age will not have significant effect on the score. Okay, age will not have significant effect on the score. So these two are the basic null hypothesis which I've drafted. So alternate would be the exact opposite. So gender will have a significant effect on the score. H2's alternate hypothesis will be age will have significant effect on the scores. So these two are the null hypothesis alone I've stated here. And I came out with the third null hypothesis, right? So that where I mentioned about the interaction part. So in the two-way ANOVA is the only way where we can, sorry, there is a two-way ANOVA is the only place where I can say gender and age, does it have significant on the score or not? So I can do the comparison of interaction of these two, both put together, will I have significant effect or not? So that I can check it only if I perform two-way ANOVA. And that's the goodness of this particular test. That's the this is the only test where we can use it for identifying the combination of combination of two factors on the one. Gender and age interaction. So now keeping these hypotheses in mind, let's go to the output file. So the output file says that so the output file, you can just view the output file now. So that gender is showing the significance of 0.35. Gender cross age is showing 0.006. So both these values are much lesser than 0.05. So when I'm having lesser than 0.05, I can purely reject the null hypothesis. So when I do the rejection of null hypothesis, which means that age and gender, the first null hypothesis, gender will have no significant difference, that is rejected. So a gender will have a difference, significant difference on the score or significant effect on the score. Gender is having significant effect on the score. Again, age is 0.006, which is again less than 0.5, 0.05. So now again, I'm rejecting the null hypothesis. So alternate hypothesis is accepted. The alternate hypothesis says that gender will have a significant effect on the score. Sorry, age will have a significant effect on the scores. So gender and age individually, it says that it will create impact on the score. But now when I do the test like gender star age, combining both, that is the interaction effect, right? That is your interaction effect. It is given as 0.556, right? Now it is given as 0.556, where I cannot reject the null hypothesis, where I'm forced to accept null hypothesis, which means that when I combine gender and age put together, there could be no significant difference on the test. So when I do the individual testing, it is proven the alternate. But when I've done the interaction type, it is showing the other side, right? So this is how the test will undergo the change. So when I have the combination of that is interaction of gender and age will have no significant effect on the scores. So this is your ANOVA, two-way ANOVA. And coming back to the post hoc test, right? And we can infer a lot of things here. You can just, I'll take up 2K HSD alone. Of course, it is almost 7. So we'll just try to wind up as quickly as possible. So here 2K test is, I'm having the significance value. Just look at the significance value and you can understand on your own. So which one could be more identifying here? 0.346, 0.035. Here it is 0.346, again 0.062. Here it is 0.05 and 0.062. So when I do this post hoc test, it is showing that age group 10 and 12, right? Almost they are having some sort of similarity in their mean values. Okay, age group 10 and 11 are having almost, they are having the similarity in their similarity in the sample of their means. Okay, so that's the identification which I have it here. And similarly, it has been proved in all the tests, that is Bonferroni and LSD. It has been proved in all the tests. So when you do this post hoc test, you can identify among these three groups, which two groups are having highest comparison of the means, highest means to be compared, which means that they are from the same population, almost from the same population. So that could be avoided. So when always the test says that when you're having same population, you're taking the means, it could be avoided to get a better results. Okay, so that's the post hoc test for ANOVA. And two-way ANOVA, I'll brush on with the Excel part also. You may not do this, but you can at least see for yourself how this test would be there for two-way ANOVA. So when you're doing this two-way ANOVA, okay, this is the data set which I had it for two-way ANOVA. We'll just do the two-way ANOVA for this one. I've just taken two different structures. I've taken class A and class B. So I've just compared three different age groups. Okay, I've compared three different age groups. So it is like 2x3 matrix again. Okay, it is like again 2x3 matrix. So now again go to the data. You can just click on the data analysis. You can just click on ANOVA two-factor with replication. With replication, without replication, the basic difference is, are we conducting the test again and again on the samples? So that is, of course, we are doing the colorful and video lecturing for 4 to 8 years. I'm just doing it for different times. So different people are taking up the same experiment. So I need to go with the replication, right? So click on this. Okay. So now I can click on. So here you need to give the rows per sample. So here the rows per sample is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 samples I've given for class A and 5 samples for class C. So I've taken 2 sections randomly. Yes, so now I've got the values here. So you can, this is two-way ANOVA in your SPSS, sorry, in your Excel sheet. So in Excel also you can do the two-way ANOVA. Screen not visible. This is how you need to do the two-way ANOVA on the Excel. And you can just cross-check this again. So if you cross-check it again, you can just get to know the p-values here. 0.04, the p-values are most essential when you are doing this two-way ANOVA. Looking at the p-values, 0.04, which is less than alpha, 0.1, which is more than alpha, and 0.7, which is again little more than alpha. So when I compare these two, right? When I compare these two values, comparing F critic with F value, you can just see the F and F critic value almost same. Okay, on the first one. And here it is almost different. So here the sample columns means this is between the columns, that is between 3 different age groups. Between 3 different age groups. So you can see 0.1 and 0.04. That is your significance value. Right? So here also the same. Wherever you are having the less value, that is p value, when it is compared to the alpha value, when it is lesser, we normally go for rejecting the null. So that's the same logic we are having it here. Okay. So this is the output of ANOVA, two-way ANOVA on the Excel, right? So if at all we just have one more session, we just try to have a little more discussion on ANOVA, how we can able to do this one. So ANOVA, again, it's a multivariate. Again, we'll be having combination of other few. Say, for example, I've taken one subject here. Rather than, say, for example, if it is, I've taken the sample of scores, right? I've taken score of 1, voice and age I've taken. Now, instead of scores of one subject, if I wanted to check score of 2 subjects, that is maths and history, I need to cross-check it with gender and age. So there I need to go for ANOVA, right? So that's the last element which you need to know. Of course, ANOVA learning that, of course, we need to be a little more stronger on these 2 aspects. Then definitely that ANOVA, it is nowhere, it is so easy. And you have a package called RealStat. So RealStat package, again in Excel, you can download that and you can use it. Even in your SPSS, it is possible. So you can, instead of clicking on univariate, if you click on multivariate, the ANOVA output will be available for you. So that's it from my session, guys. So very sorry.